Hi, this is Steve with Coin Stuff I Like, bringing you another Ike Stuff I Like video, and it is the third part of the Peg Leg Eisenhower Dollar series that I want to present to you. And I've previously done two other videos. Part one was discussing the Ike Peg Legs by design, meaning millions of them were produced in a given year and mint, and they don't carry premiums generally, and or should not on the basis of their peg leg. Then I presented part two, which is a description of the peg legs that do carry a premium, or they should carry a premium. Those are the peg legs that were by individual die manipulation, where you could identify individual dies, and some of them are quite uncommon and carry a decent premium. This one, part three, is going to be looking at them under the microscope. And what I'm going to do is actually take my showcase set of peg legs that I have on PCGS, and I'm going to just go through those coins and look at them under the microscope. And we'll give a little bit more description, a little bit more live look at these peg legs. So stick around. Thank you for watching. Okay, so let's start with 1971. There are no peg legs known for 1971 Philadelphia business strikes. And this one's pretty close, but it's got the loss of those nice wide, sharp serifs, but it's not enough. So you can still see that the very bottom of the R is wider than even the upper part. So this one here is close, but no cigar for this one. There are no known 1971 peg legs for the Ike series. This one's a 71D, MS66 with a green bean. And this one is a peg leg. And I think there's between 4 and 8 dies that ended up with peg legs. I want to say closer to 4 in 1971D. And you can tell. Look at the field bending on this one. Look at the shadow just above Ike's head. That's field bending. You can see the die abrasion scratches running obliquely between the vertical bar of the R and the tail of the R. So this is a die abrasion resulting in a peg leg R for 1971D, and it is the more common 1971D, and you can tell that by the type 1 earth. The 3 islands are all to the east of the tip of Florida, and then also the shape of the Gulf of Mexico, where Louisiana sort of creates a sort of a dip down into the Gulf of Mexico. So it's more of a convexity there. All right, so that's the plain 1971D, or the more common 1971D peg leg. I do have the other 3 or 4 peg legs from that series of 71D, but I'm not going to show that. I'll show that when I get into a deeper dive into each individual year sometime down the line. So this is another 1971D, but this one's the Friendly Eagle. This is a 65 with a green bean, and there you go. So this one here is just narrow enough down at the foot to qualify as a peg leg. As I rotate around, no serifs, and that width there is about the same as that vertical bar up above the crossbar there. So this is a peg leg. Look at the field bending. Look at the shadows above Ike's head and the field bending, how that is taken away the serifs. And again, this is a 71D, but this is the less common 71D, the friendly eagle. And you could identify that by looking at the earth. It's more, it's a sort of a single blob of 4 islands instead of 3 islands, right? The islands look different. And then the Gulf of Mexico also looks different. It's more concave than the common type 1 Earth. And then if you wanted to, go one step further, there's a few other markers, like see the crater flow lines, the one just to the right of the tip of that second L, the top of the second L. It comes all the way down where the more common type, it does not. It does not even come close. It's all above. All right. So difference in the earth and so forth. But that is the only die from the 71D friendly eagle. This one here is getting into the 1971 peg legs, the 1971 S business strike peg legs. And this one is MS66 green bean. This one here, now there are 4 different dies that resulted in peg legs for the 1971 S business strike. This is the first one, and you can see obviously a peg leg. The field bending is a little less obvious, but look at the left hand side of the top bar of the T. That's whittled down by die work, and then also the same thing with the Y. But there you go. There's some field bending. You can see just to the right side of that the lower vertical part of the R, you can see field bending there. All right, so this one here, how do we know there's 4 different dies? Well, we can tell by mint mark placement. But this one here has a double die obverse. Now this is considered to be a beautiful, beautiful, but hub doubled, meaning it's upline doubling for this. So look at let's see, look at the GOD. All right, so there is in the bottom of the D, there's notching there, the O and the G. You can actually see the G up in the top bar as well as the lower bar. You can see it in the T in trust. It's pretty substantial there. All right, the bottom of the U. All right, and if you look at the GOD, you can start picking that up too. The very bottom of the G. You can see that notch. And then the O and the D. All right, so this one here, peg leg, and this is the first in the Ike group. We call this 1SB, meaning 1971 silver business strike, 201. That's the listing number. All right. The next one is the second one. So this is 1SB 202, but this has a couple of different die marriages. So we have a 201.1, 201.2, which I'll go into in another date time. Look at the loss of the crossbar on the T and the Y, and it has the bending. As there's some field bending there. If you look just to the right of the lower part of the of the vertical of the R, there's field bending. And then that's a peg leg. It's a different peg leg. The other one here, the other one had sort of a little chunk or notch on the lower left-hand side. Here's the other one. Here's the first one. All right, you see that? See that? How it's notched out. It's almost like a diagonal notch on the lower left, right? But the second one, it's more squared off, but it's still a peg leg. This one here does not have that the same double diverse. It does. It has a very minor double diverse. You can see a little bit of notching. Maybe at the top of the R. Yeah. But the top of the N right bar there. So it's very minor. The other one has a larger spread. And this one here, the first die marriage was a normal reverse with no doubling, no substantial doubling. All right, particularly up here at the islands, the T, and these stars on the left-hand side. All right, so it started with that die marriage, but then here's the peg leg, same peg leg, 1SB202, but this is the 0.2, where they changed the die marriage for this one. And now you could start to see some doubling in the stars. There's a little bit there. There you go. You start picking up a little bit more here. And then if you look at that T there, see the right-hand side of the T, see how there's notching there in that crossbar of the T in United? And then you need greater magnification, and I'm not going to go into that with this video, but there's island doubling. You can pick up, there it is. You look at the bottom island, you can actually see a notch there. It's doubled. And then also, yeah, if you really look, the islands just above it, you can see some notching there. So there's island doubling. There's some doubling in the stars. If you look at it with loops, and there's that characteristic, there's the notch there. So they switched. And this is a new die marriage. So there's two for the price of one. Same obverse, the peg leg, but it has two different reverses. This is the next one. This one here, in the Ike group, we call it 1SB601. I think it is the third of the peg legs. And, oh, by the way, this one has been attributed as a FS401. The other two, or the other three, the 1SB201, 1SB202.1 and .2, they all had FS401 designations by PCGS, but this one also got it because it's a peg leg. if you look, it has it flares at the bottom, and it's called the redwood trunk or the stovepipe peg leg, but the bottom does not have the characteristics serifs, and it is no wider than that. The part of the vertical that's just above the crossbar, it's narrower. This is a peg leg. And it's different than the others. This one does not have the whittling of the T and the Y, and it does not have any field bending. How did it get there? How was it? How would come by that? No field bending. How did it arise? Well, this is conjecture, but my conjecture is that this it's not the typical die used for the silver business strike. It's not the same ODV. In fact, I'll go one step further, and I'm going to say that it looks suspiciously like the die used for the proofs, which is a different ODV, obverse design variety. So there's a proof, and there's the stovepipe, 1SB601. All right, they look quite similar to me, at least if you had a full first 1% of the strikes off of this proof die. It might look like this. Anyway, that's just conjecture, but it is a different die than all the other dies used to strike 1S, the silver business strikes in 1971. And so it's very hard to find these. These are not common. You might even call them rare. And it may be that they ran a few and they said, "Oh no, we got to take this die out of production." So there's not very many of these. This is a hard to find peg leg, and again, no field bending. You could also identify it by mint mark, and this one has a reverse with a pretty substantial double die. Look at the LL. All right. The LL, and then you can also catch it up here. You can catch it in the stars as well. Let me see. Yeah, there's some. Let's see here. Yeah, you can see that lower star there in the tail in the lower left. There's a notching there, but you can also pick it up in the C in America. See the lower part of that C there? There you go. And you'll pick it up in other devices. Look at the E in America. Right, the M in America. But it's easiest to pick up in the L and in dollar, the two L's in dollar. Let me see if I can. There we go. Two L's in dollar, and then that C in America. So another 1971 silver business strike, but this one here is far less common than the first two that I showed you. All right. Then there's one more. Now, this one is also got into an FS 401 holder by PCGS. And here, this one here is heavily die braided. Look at the die, the field bending there between head, all along the top of Ike's head. A lot of die abrasion work. This one here, that bottom lost its serifs. It's no wider than the upper part of the vertical of the R. This is a peg leg. And this one here was different than the others. And it has, it has a little bit of a double die, but not like the others. And then it has a nice little, what I call an NT die crack. If you look at the running down through the N to the top of the T there's a die crack. And this is part of the 522 double die reverse series, where they kept replacing, exchanging dies after clashes and repairs and so forth. And this was the last. This is 1SB 310.6. It's the last of that series. And I'm going to go over that series in a separate video because it's just an amazing story of all the different die marriages involved with that particular one. But this one here, completely different, and it's the fourth of the 1971S. Probably, again, this is end of die life type stuff here, and there's probably not many of these out there as well. So we're talking pretty uncommon peg legs on the 1971S. All right, so this, I showed this just a little earlier. This is a 1971S. 1971S peg leg, and this is very common. There are many dies, many coins, millions of coins, millions of 1971S proof, silver proof peg legs. As I've mentioned in another video, the first 40 to 50% of all the 1971S proof had this peg leg. But it's in there just because, just for completeness sake. It's not rare. It's not. It shouldn't carry any premium to have that peg leg. This one here is in the collection because this is what happened when you would take that die and you would do some retreatment. You'd have to take it out of production because back then they had a different way of frosting the devices, and the frosting would wear out after a few, a certain number of strikes. They'd take it out of production. They would sandblast it. They'd have to repolish the fields. And in doing so, you lost some of the devices, and this is an extremely faded peg leg. 1971S, silver proof, from that first 40 to 50% of production. But look at what happened. All right, so that's a really nice one. There's a lot of those out there because there's many dies, many millions of 1971S peg legs, silver proof, and they did this. So there's a lot of them with varying degrees of fading. Some of them are more profound than others, like that one, and that's the one that I'd want to have in my collection. But you can't say that's a single die variety like that. Some of those silver business strikes, those are all, each one of them that I showed you were single die varieties. Speaking of single die varieties, 1972 Type 1. There's the peg leg. You can see the field bending. There's the peg leg. No serifs. 1972. And this one here has the 3 islands, Type 1 reverse earth. So 1972 Type 1 single die peg leg. Very nice to have and not very common to find. This is a type 3. There's no peg legs in this, the type 1972 type 2. There are no peg legs in the 1973 type or 1972 type 3. This one's getting there, but no. I put it in there just because I have it. I want to hold it. So, but it's not a peg leg. 72D. That's a classic. And there's a lot of 72D dies. I want to say there's maybe 8 to 10 of them. When I do the die study, I will be able to give you a little bit more details on that. But here you go. Peg leg, 1972 D. All right, that's one example. This one's a separate die, and this one here is a 1972, but it's referred to as a oak or off at the knee, meaning it's more aggressive. And look at the die. The field bending goes all the way up to the crossbar in this one as I wave the light. Lots of die abrasion work, and that peg leg is really short. So this one is called the Oak, 1972D Oak. This one also has a special name. This one's called the amputee, and you can see that it's a peg leg, but there's a chunk missing on the left-hand side of that vertical bar, and then if you look at the tail, there's a whole chunk missing here. So this is a unique die variety as well. 1972D. Here's a 1972S, and it has a peg leg, just like every other 1972S. So there are millions of these, many dies. This does not carry a premium, but it's in the collection just as a design, peg leg by design example. From 1972S. And so the same thing with the 1972S silver proof. They're all peg legs, so no premium, but it's in the collection just as a demonstration. Now here's 1973, and this is a 1973 S silver proof, and there is I know of one that is a 1973 S proof that is made it to peg leg status. This one here, if you look, it still has a little bit of that serif on the lower left. Now, from 73 on, the peg legs, when they happened, they might have a little bit of that flare on the right-hand side. It's called the Eskimo boot peg leg, but they must not have that little, I'm trying to get it, there it is. That little dinky little serif that's left on the lower left-hand side prevents me from calling this one a peg leg, an Eskimo boot peg leg. But there is at least one known where it made it to that status, where that little serif on the lower left is absent, and it's an Eskimo boot peg leg. This one's very close. And I'll just keep looking for one that's a full-fledged Eskimo boot peg leg that fills my collection. Now, this is a 74D, and this one's like the 71D. Not many. There's maybe 4 dies that made it to peg leg status, but look at the field bending, look at the die abrasion work, and certainly that is a peg leg. 74D, this is an MS65. All right, next. Now, I mentioned an Eskimo boot peg leg. Well, this is this clad 74S proof, clad proof. And now you see no little dinky serif there. Still has a little lump on the right side, but no serif on the left side. This one is an Eskimo boot peg leg example from 74S. Not many of these, but there's probably more than one die, but certainly not many dies and millions of these. This is collectible. Next one is 74S, the silver proof. And this one here, that little serif is gone. And another Eskimo boot peg leg, and this is from 74S. Not many of these. These are less common than the clad proof. Then we get into 76. 76 type 1 peg leg. They were all peg legs. All the type 1 in the 76 series, those were made in 1975. All the type 1s had peg legs. All right. So there's an example from Philadelphia. Here's an example from Denver. Right? And it's just the same, it's the peg leg by design. So millions and millions of these. All right? However, if you take a peg leg and you braid it more, like we saw with that 71S proof, you can get something that's even more faded. And this one here is called an oak off at the knee peg leg. And this is a 76 type 1. How do I know that? If it's all been manipulated on the obverse, look at the reverse. There's a type 1 reverse with a very big block letters. This is a type 1, but look how much abrasion has gone on. There's field bending. Look at field bending at the top. You can see from the shadows. And aggressive loss of that leg of the R. This is a single die. There aren't any more of these that made it. So that's one of the few collectible type 1 1976 peg legs because it's been aggressively abraded. Now we get into the type 2. When they started producing the 76. The 76 type 1 were produced in 75. 76 type 2s were produced in 76. The type 2, the reverse has the more angled instead of blocked crossbars on those T's, little narrower letters. But they also had a peg leg. And I don't have an example of their, not a peg leg, but they had a serif like an Eskimo boot type style that you saw in 73. Well, this is one that got abraded and turned into a peg leg. So not many dies of this. This is a collectible peg leg from the type 2. And this is a 76 Philadelphia peg leg. Now, 76D, remember they had serifs. They had those 73 type style, 74 type style, and this one also a peg leg. some field bending there and some brazen work, but a peg leg from a 76 Type 2. Not many of those dies around, and so that's a collectible as well. Now, this is a Silver Business Strike 76 S, right? They were all Type 1s, so they all had peg legs. So there's the Type 1 reverse, and they all had the peg legs. So not collectible. It's just in there as an example of a peg leg by design. And the same thing with the clad Type 1. Clad Type 1 all had peg legs. And the silver proof from 76 in that little red government packaged folding display with a half and the quarter, Type 1. They're all Type 1. Not collectible, no premium. For next is a 77D, and this is one of two dies. So there's two dies known for 77D die abrasion peg legs. There's one. You can see the field bending, die abrasion work. And this one here has different die abrasion. And look at the E, it's almost gone. The top bar of the E. A lot of die abrasion work there from Repair and Clash. And then this one here, 77D, different mint mark placement, so different die than this one. This is another peg leg 77D, and it's a peg leg, and different field bending, different mint mark placement, so that you can, for example, look at the mint mark placement in this one. It's tilted D, and that D is pointing down towards the middle of that lower part of the 7, right? It's more aligned with that middle part of the 7. This is the first one that I showed you. This one's up a little bit higher. This one's up a little bit higher. It's still tilted, but not quite as much. That vertical goes down to the right-hand side of the lower part of the 7. So if you did lines of Calansis mint mark placement lines, this one and this one, see how it's lower and more tilted, are different dies, obverse dies. They always put the mint mark on the die afterwards, after the die was ready. The mint mark was added to the die. So each mint mark was a little bit different, and in terms of its placement, and it's sort of like a fingerprint. You can tell each die that would be one marker. Of course, you're looking for other markers as well. So there's the two 72Ds. And then the last of the die abrasion peg legs is the 78D. There's only one die, 78D. There it is. Lots of field bending there too. 78D. So that's it for the true peg legs. Of course, I have a few in my collection that are near peg legs, and this is one of them. This is a 78S proof This is clad. They only made clad proofs after 76. And this one is really close. Look. Now it has that would qualify as an Eskimo boot if it didn't have that little serif on the lower left. And this is a little bit more than what we saw in that 73S silver proof, but it's getting there. And to my knowledge, there are no 78S proof Eskimo boot peg legs. 73S silver proofs, there is one that I know of. It's not in my collection. I don't own it. And there are no 78. But keep a lookout for them because they did do the dye polishing and retreatment a little bit in those years as well, and you may have the loss of that serif, that little serif knob on the lower left. So there you have it. There are the peg legs for you, and some of them, like this 71D, carry a premium because of the peg leg, and some of them carry even more of a premium because of they're known to be a single dye variety. So you want to be on the lookout for those. An example would be like a 72 type 1 peg leg, only one dye, so pretty uncommon. Or that 1971S, any of the 1971S silver business strike peg legs, they're going to carry a premium, but this one is even less common, and the 1SB601, and that's definitely one that if you have it, that's a nice one to have in your collection. So thanks for watching, and I will come back and get into some of the single year and go over the different dyes and dye markers, but that'll be down the line. But thank you for watching. Remember, there is a part 1 and a part 2 to watch that go along with this one. Remember, buy stuff you like. Be smart about what you buy. We'll catch you next time. Thank you for watching.